If you know answer to these 3 questions, congratulations, you're already halfway there and you don't need to watch this video. But in case, if you do not know answer to these questions, this video is exactly meant for you. So at the very beginning, let us place the premise of this one. And the premise is that there is a very specific mindset for ethics. To find out what is the mindset and the other questions related to it, let us break this video into 3 parts. Sabse pehla, why? Why will give us answers to what kind of mindset do we need. And after knowing what, that means what kind of mindset is needed, we'll move on to how to develop that mindset. So the 3 things are why, what and how. Talking about why are we even talking about this, we need to understand 3 important things. The first one is the nature of ethics. The second one is the temperament of ethics. And the third one is the epistemological importance of ethics. Let us deal with them one by one. Then we'll move on to what and then we'll move on to how. Remember, how is going to help you not only in ethics paper but also in GS 1, 2, 3 and optional. So keep watching this video till the very end. Alright, let us start with the first part of why, which is the nature of ethics. When we talk about the nature of ethics, what we are trying to identify is whether ethics is a practical paper or is it a theoretical paper. General common perception is that ethics is a theoretical paper. आप कंटेंट पढ़ लें, कंटेंट के ऊपर मास्टरी कर लें तो आपके अच्छे मार्क्स आ जाएंगे, which is absolutely wrong. Over the years, ethics has shown a very practical bent in its inclination. Now, मैं झूठ बोल रहा हो सकता हूं, इसके लिए we'll just have a look at the previous year question papers, which are the best barometer to understand whether ethics has a practical nature or more of a theoretical side to it. There was this particular question which was asked, what is the relevance of transparency, accountability और इस तरीके के कुछ और शब्द दिए थे. So let's say talk about transparency and accountability. So it spoke about what is the relevance of transparency and accountability. There were many people who wrote wonderful definitions of these terms and still did not get marks. And do you think they should have gotten marks? No. Why? Because the question was asking about the relevance of transparency and accountability. It was not asking about the definition of both of them. Now, what is relevance? It's very practical. That means you must understand the definition, but you must also know what the relevance is. Take another example from section A of previous year question papers. There was this Warren Buffett saying which said integrity and energy are 2 important prerequisites for inducting anybody into an organization. But without integrity, intelligence and energy becomes lethal. Now, do you think that's a theoretical question? It's a very practical question. For that matter, most of the quotation-based questions are very practical in nature. When we talk about other realistic examples that section A often asks about, they are also talking about the practical side of the section A. Having said that, it does not mean that there are no theoretical questions when we come to ethics paper. There are theoretical questions, like when they talk about some moral thinker or philosopher, if they're asking about utilitarianism, if they're talking about probably Plato, Socrates, they might be talking about a bit part of theory. But if they are talking about Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, BNS, then it's very much practical, very much contemporary, right? So this gives us an idea that at least section A indicates that ethics is a very practical subject. It's not theoretical, counterintuitively. Then we come to the section B. What does section B talk about? Now see, section B is out and out case studies. So case studies anyway, they have never asked you the idea of some great thinker. They have not asked you the idea of what Mahatma Gandhi will say in this or what other people will say. Even if they do, that would be 1 or 2 questions. What do they ask? They ask that you are district development officer. They ask that you are SP. They ask that you are collector. You are the in charge in a district which is hit by a natural calamity. So you are being given situation which you are required to resolve in a very practical manner. So section B again indicates that the nature of ethics paper is very practical. Section A and Section B all over the years reflect very clearly that the nature of ethics is practical. This gives us one part of our answer. Now there are two parts remaining. The second one is the temperament of ethics paper. When we talk about temperament, we are trying to identify whether ethics is an objective paper or is it a subjective paper. Ethics is, again, contrary to common notion, it is a very objective paper. Now when I talk about objectivity, what do I mean? I mean that it's more fact based, it's more scientific in nature. It's not like an art. If you are doing something which you justify as right in a particular situation, you can never call it to be wrong. In case if I were standing in your shoes, you cannot call it wrong. अगर कोई चीज आपके लिए सही है तो मेरे लिए भी सही है, और अगर मेरे लिए गलत है तो आपके लिए भी गलत है. हम लोग we cannot cut slack by calling my action to be right and your action to be wrong. And interestingly, ethics is not merciful to anyone, be it your friend, sibling, family, mother, father, or even your enemy. If the situations are the same, then the action will carry the same moral judgment for you, me, your enemy, your friend, your family. And same goes for my family, my friends as well. The thing is, that's the level of objectivity that ethics seeks to achieve. So, in short, the temperament of ethics is objective in nature. Now, you have to understand, in case if we try to make it subjective, it becomes very chaotic. It becomes very messy. How can you define something which is subjective? अगर हम लोग subjective कर देते फिर तो मेरे लिए जान लेना किसी की ठीक है ना. If we make it subjective, then if you steal, it is fine, because then you will have your own justifications and rationalizations to call it right. It's not something which is objectively right because it is wrong, but we'll justify it as right. Why? Because it is subjective. So just calling it subjective opens up a Pandora's box, and out comes an evil which is unprecedented. So it becomes very chaotic. So the temperament of ethics is objective. Now let's come to the third part of the why. The third part is the epistemological importance of ethics. What do we mean with that? Understand, in order to do any kind of ethical analysis or make any kind of moral judgment, it is important for anyone to have better knowledge of other subjects as well. The knowledge of other subjects will be decisive of the fact of the depth and breadth of your moral analysis. Let me give you an example. Recently, I made a video on vote chori for YouTube, and in order to make the correct ethical analysis, I needed to know what is happening currently. I also needed to know Article 324, which lays the foundation of Election Commission, also the vision behind it. I also needed to know about Article 326, which talks about universal adult franchisee and lays the bedrock principle of democracy. Not only that, I also need to understand and know about the vision of the constitutional forefathers who had paved way and who have placed the ideals which have strengthened the soul of democracy via Article 324, Article 326, and thereby making them equal. So, with this knowledge, I can go and do a better ethical analysis on the topic of vote chori. Now, that is an example from polity. In other words, we can say that what you need to do is, if you are reading a subject, you should be well versed with it. If your knowledge is not good in other subjects, then it becomes difficult for you to make a moral analysis. The judgment is very likely to be erroneous. Why? Because the knowledge in a particular subject is not very good. And in case if you have a doubt regarding कि नहीं ये हर सब्जेक्ट में तो नहीं चल सकता, हिस्ट्री में कैसे चलेगा, ज्योग्राफी में कैसे चलेगा, तो लेट मी गिव यू दैट एग्जांपल एज वेल. हाउ डू वी राइट हिस्ट्री? Are we writing history fairly, or are we writing history with a lot of bias? Are we putting facts up there, or are we giving opinions over there? That is the way we are writing history. Is it not inclusive of ethics? अगर आप ओपिनियन लिख रहे हो तो आप इतिहास नहीं बता रहे हो, और जब आप इतिहास नहीं बता रहे हो तो आप गलत ही कर रहे हो। होता है आज के टाइम पे कि नहीं होता है? लेट्स टॉक अबाउट ज्योग्राफी। व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट बिल्डिंग अ स्ट्रक्चर or building a bridge at a place which is very sensitive infrastructurally, and we mine from places which are sensitive, we build things in seismic zones, and then earthquake comes or flood comes, the river meanders and lakhs and thousands of people die. Does that not make it a part of ethics? It makes it a part of ethics. In short, your interdisciplinary knowledge should be at a higher pedestal in order to make a better ethical judgment. Otherwise, it will be severely limited. So you need to remember that. So that is the epistemological importance of ethics. Summing up all these three things in one line, we can say that ethics nature is practical, its temperament is objective, and interdisciplinary knowledge should be higher in order to do better moral analysis, make better ethical judgments. अब ये बताता है कि हमें माइंडसेट कैसा चाहिए। हमारे पास पूरी कहानी है, इट्स प्लेन एंड सिंपल, इट्स क्लियरली लेड आउट. We need to be practical, we need to be objective, and we need to be well versed with every subject. That is the mindset for ethics. After having discussed why do we need what kind of mindset, we come to how do we develop that mindset. And this is one thing, as I told you in the beginning, which is going to be very helpful to you, not only in ethics, but also in GS 1, 2, 3, as well as your optional and essay. Let's see what do we need to do. Now, when we talk about how to develop these things, these traits, I'm talking in the same chronology, like they have the same priority, right? The first thing that you would need to develop is objectivity. That means your temperament shall be aligned with ethics temperament. So how do we develop objectivity? See, at times what happens is the natural arguments that come to us or the arguments that flows to us seamlessly are faulty or erroneous because they are not tested by reason. So what we need to do is we need to counter those arguments very consciously and conscientiously. How do you counter those arguments? See, let's say if you have a favorable position towards a topic, and that is the only safe space that you are working upon. So you stop doing that. Consciously try to find out the arguments which counter your fundamental premise. How do you do that? Take the help of ChatGPT, take the help of Perplexity, keep checking that those are the valid resources. Once you are able to do that, ask ChatGPT or Perplexity to counter the argument that you are presenting. And when you do that, think about the reason that you had and think about the counter reasons as well. Do this exercise for everything, for every thought that you hold. Now, what it is going to do is, it is going to add depth to your arguments. Let's say you had 3 points in favor earlier. Now you have 3 contrasting points as well. So it is adding depth to your argument. Additionally, what does it do is, in case if you have to align your thought more towards the right side of the equation, then you can do that only by knowing what is on the other side of the curtain. You can never know something merely by talking about what you feel and how you feel. Mostly they are coming out of whims and fancies, not out of objective reason. So objectivity could be increased only when we know about the counter side of our argument. In case if we do not know about the counter side of our argument, it becomes really very difficult for you to follow up on that. Right? So that is one of the things that you need to do. And subconsciously what it does is, it triggers your intellectual capacities to always look for the balance in your argument. The time you are finding out balance in the argument, you are moving more towards objectivity because now you've neutralized yourself. So that's how it subconsciously acts on you. So the first way to develop objectivity, in short, if I sum it up, is explore counter arguments to what your initial thought is and then balance out your opinion. Keep looking for truth, keep looking for facts. It will make you more objective. I like to give you a disclaimer here. It is not easy to do that. There will be a lot of threshold, lot of reluctance in doing that. Initially, it will feel like a mammoth task, but the time you start doing it, believe me, you are going to see exponential results in very short time, provided you follow it judiciously and religiously. Now comes the next thing on our priority list of how to develop it. You need to realize that it is practical in nature. So how do we do that? For ethics, you note it down on a piece of paper that ethics is practical in nature. And whenever you come to a new moral concept, just turn that small piece of paper and write on that, how does this concept help me? Alright, how does this help me in real time? And what does it teach me? How does it morally train me? The things that I am telling you also impact you at a subconscious level. So when I am judiciously doing all this, then automatically my subconscious will trigger in a manner that I will be fine-tuned towards objectivity and practicality. Nevertheless, when you write it on a piece of paper, it is an automatic thought which is continuously telling you, kind of an auto-suggestion, that you are looking at the practical side of it. You are not blindly going only by the concept. Now again, if you are reading Ethica, then you don't need to do it, because in Ethica I have already taken care of all that. I have explained the concepts in a manner where all such relevance and all is given to you. But not necessarily that you read Ethica. Maybe you are reading some other book. So keep that a piece of paper in your hand and try to identify why I am reading this, why I am reading moral thinkers, why I am reading attitude, why I am reading emotional intelligence, why I am reading aptitude, why I am reading other chapters. When you continuously keep asking yourself question, and you otherwise you will forget. You are a human being, I understand. So you write it on a piece of paper. When you are continuously asking yourself, how does it help? How does that help? So you are training your subconscious to look for it. Even when you are unaware of that, you will automatically look for the practical side of the equation. And that should go on for other papers as well. But at least for ethics, you should do it. Again, at the cost of repetition, Ethica, you don't need to do that. In case if you are reading Ethica, it is fine, because I have taken care of all that. But even then, you can ask questions. And anyway, YouTube session, other things will keep happening. So you also subscribe, जिससे कि अगर आगे भी कुछ क्वेश्चन पूछना हो तो you can ask that, right? You're planning a lot of things, but that later. Now comes the point where the third point, the realizing the epistemological aim of ethics. How do you do that? Now the thing that we did regarding the practicality of ethics, in the second point, the similar thing we are going to do in other papers. But here what we will do is, instead of being a passive reader, we are going to become an active reader. From passive to active reader. Now, why do I say that? Generally what happens, you keep hitting your head hard on the concepts which are given to you. You keep rereading it, you keep mugging it, you keep doing that in order to just understand the topic. That doesn't happen. So what you need to do is, when you're reading a topic, be mindful, learn slow, but learn well. Slow yourself down, ask yourself these questions. Why do I read this? How is it helpful? What is the core ideology? How can I put it in one sentence or in one word? It's a very important technique to make you strong regarding the subject that you are doing. And when can I use this? These questions and other similar questions can be asked in order to become an active reader. Now, once that becomes a habit, automatically you will train your subconscious to ask questions which are relevant. You will become active reader, and that mindfulness, that active reading capacity will automatically fine-tune you towards the mindset of what is needed in ethics. Again, it does not apply to Ethica, because these things also I have taken care in that, but other books you please take care. See, there is an additional benefit when you talk about becoming active readers. You get a sense of engagement. Your subconscious fires your vigor and passion into the reading. Alright, so how to develop it? There are 3 steps. 1, objectivity. You develop it by consciously and conscientiously finding counter arguments to your naturally held belief. The second one is developing that practical sense, for which you need to write it on a piece of paper that it is a practical subject, and keep asking questions on the real side of that particular paper. The third one is realizing the epistemological potential of ethics, that you can do by triggering your subconscious vigor and passion towards the subject by becoming active readers. So that is about it. I hope you have understood the kind of mindset that is needed for ethics paper, and this how to develop is going to help you a lot in other sub papers as well. But the point is, in case if you practice, in case if you found this video helpful and it was able to add some value to your preparation, do subscribe to the channel, share it with friends who do not have the clarity regarding the mindset that a person needs while dealing with ethics paper, and also drop a like.